This year's travel began with a challenging trek, which was the Chadar trek from Leh in Ladakh region. I took a flight from Pune to Chandigarh and Chandigarh to Leh. As I'm flying over these amazing scenic Himalayas, I'm thinking of my upcoming trek and its challenges. The Chadar, that is the frozen river, and we are supposed to walk around 65 kilometers on this frozen river. The altitude is roughly 11,100 feet. Oxygen levels would be less, and we would be staying in tents in the sub-zero temperatures, which would range between minus 20 degrees Celsius to minus 30 degrees Celsius. This was like a test which was on all levels: physical, mental, and emotional. As the flight was nearing the Leh city, I could see the terrain change into the desert-like feel. The Zanskar river was also clearly seen. It was an amazing view. On arriving at Leh, I was picked up by the tour agency and transported to the hotel. Most of the Leh city was closed down due to being the month of January and very harsh winter here. Only a few shops were open and a few hotels and lodges. January is the best time for going on this Chadar trek. While walking in the city of Leh, I could see a few waterfalls which were also partially frozen. On the second day, we visited the Shanti Stupa. First 2 days in Leh are for acclimatization because you need to adjust to these low levels of oxygen. This Shanti Stupa of Ladakh is located at an altitude of 11,841 feet, and it is the world's highest Shanti Stupa. I was getting used to this cold winter here, which was around minus 19 degrees Celsius, having around 2 or 3 layers of clothing. Though the weather was clear, yet it was quite cold. I could see the beautiful views of Leh city located in the lap of the Himalayas and the Zanskar mountains. I was walking around this Shanti Stupa and I could see the backdrop of the Himalayan ranges and the beautiful snow-capped mountains, and a lot of carvings here on the Shanti Stupa. I was lucky to spot a few Eurasian magpies here in this region. Specifically, these birds are seen in Ladakh area. The evening was spent for buying some required things for the trek like gumboots, gloves and other such things. The locals were selling some dry fruits like apricots. The sunset was amazing against these Saras green statues. The next day was the medical checkup, which was the day which would decide whether we would go on the trek or not. You have to clear this medical. Blood pressure and oxygen levels are checked here. On clearance, a medical form and an insurance card were issued, which was to be carried on the trek with us. So I was excited that the next day would be the beginning of my trek. In Leh, we stayed in hotels which had room heaters, and also the restaurant served hot water all the time. This is very essential to keep your health in good shape. The local foods like momos, timpu and tupkas was quite enjoyable. The first day was a drive for 3 hours from Leh to Shingrakoma. On the way was a stopover for checking of our documents. A little drive ahead and we stopped over at a Gurudwara for darshan. Most of the roads were quite good and we were driving past by the Zanskar river. The temperatures were cold and we could see the ice formed over this river. The sun was shining and we stopped over for a few glimpses of the top view of the Zanskar river. The last patch of the road was quite bad and it was still not made into a proper tar road. Driving through the dusty road, we finally reached the destination of Shingrakoma, which was the start point of our trek. You can see the camps here and the buses stopped at this point. We had to walk down from this hill to the main area of the river from which we would be starting our trek. We were briefed by our guide here. So we started our practice in this hard ice terrain. Already there was a fear of slips and falls, and so each step was kept very carefully. The amazing mountains were there around us. So carefully we were trying our best not to fall and walk on this hard ice. We were to reach this waterfall. On the way, the floating ice on this river was an amazing scene. I really loved the color of this river. The snow had created beautiful formations on the ground and on the tree. There was a different story, legendary story of this Soma Spring waterfall. The landscapes were simply amazing. The mountains looked mighty. On the first day, these snow formations, the cracks in the ground were really something different to us. The people here started assembling our campsite. Every day this would be the routine. The tents would be set up and the sleeping bags would be given. This was the kitchen tent of the group. After spending a challenging night in the tent on the first day, we started our walk on day 2 to the Tip Cave. Today would be a very challenging day because the whole day we were going to walk on this frozen river on ice and snow and different formations. Today our walk would be around 18 kilometers. The snow and ice scenery around us was quite appealing, but yet we had to watch our feet so that we would not get into this chilled water. Every step was to be carefully put. The real challenge was walking on this mirror like ice. It was very slippery and we had to put it like penguin steps. On the way, there were beautiful waterfalls which were frozen. The flowing Zanskar river was quite scenic. The water was so pure, so clean, yet the force and the feeling of chilled water was a little scary. At some places, the guides used to really help us because the ground was really slippery and we could not manage walking on it. The river water was so clear at many places, and where it was shallow we could see the rocks and the stones below. It had started snowing a little. You could see the white snowflakes against the background of this dark river. These small frozen waterfalls were a treat to the eyes while we were walking. Walking in the layers, around 3 layers of clothing plus the down jacket, gloves, everything was quite challenging, and there were patches which were narrow near the river and you had to watch every step carefully as to not slip on this ice. As we reached the campsite of Tib, which was the second day's campsite, it was snowing. Not much, but it was snowing, and the guide told us that if it would snow heavily, then we would not be able to go ahead on our Chadar trek. So we had to wait till morning. The camp was set up and we had to spend the night here at Tip Cave. The night the weather got quite clear and we had hopes that we would be able to proceed ahead on our trek. A few lights at the campsite and the mighty mountains at night was an amazing scene. Next day, though it snowed a little at night, the weather got cleared and we were lucky to proceed further today to the Nerak village. Today was a long walk of around 22 kilometers. The mild snowfall at night in fact helped us to get the grip on this ice. It was a little sunny and we could see the beautiful landscapes in this morning light. This is the snow which was in the ice and we got good grips. The porters could also transport the luggage. As we approached the Nerak village, which was the main trek point, that is the summit point we could say, where the huge waterfall would be seen, we heard that there were few places where the Chadar, that is the frozen river, had broken, and so we would have to climb up the mountain and down to reach the waterfall. This would increase our trek distance by 2 kilometers, and at the same time we would have to climb up on this high altitude place which was around 11,100 feet. So we kept walking till we reached that particular specific point from where we had to climb up the mountain. Near the Nerak village, I could spot a few pug marks of the snow fox here. You can see the broken chadar and the very narrow patches at the sides. So here we started our climb on the rocks wearing the gumboots. This was a short patch of rocks which we had to cross, minding our steps not to slip and fall in the river. Further ahead, we had to again go uphill. You can see the group walking uphill. The snow was there on the mountains. It was a beautiful landscape and the sun made the day quite bearable. After the uphill climb, we again started with the descent. You can see the beautiful waterfall from the top. A road is almost halfway constructed here. In the next few years, probably it would join the other side and then this trek would no longer exist.
We have finally reached the frozen waterfall near Nerak village.
All the tired feeling vanished looking at this beautiful structure of nature, this frozen, huge, mighty waterfall. After the summit, we again climbed uphill, and from there I saw this beautiful Zanskar river, and the view was simply memorable and amazing. With the amazing memories of this frozen waterfall, we started our descent back and we were going to walk back to our campsite on the same route on the frozen ice, snow, and the beautiful landscapes around us. On this trek, I saw huge structures of ice, the slabs of ice near the river bank, different snow structures which I had never seen in my life. Some narrow patches of this chadar made us walk on rocks. The cracks which were there in this frozen ice were really scary, and they could be seen on the entire path of this trek. In some patches of this trek, I really felt as if I was walking in a deep freezer where there were different structures which could be seen on a miniature scale in our home refrigerator. These were seen on a massive scale on this trek. Some patches of ice were like a mixture of snow and ice, and our legs were easily going down into that deep snow. We stopped over for lunch and the entire team rested for some time. The porters cooked amazing meals and served them hot, which was a real treat in this cold weather. They also served tea, soups on this trek. After the quick meal, we again started our walk on this semi-hard snow. It was difficult because the distance was quite a lot on this day. We reached our campsite on day 3 and rested at night. It was almost dark by the time we reached this site. On the next day, we again understood that the chadar had broken at many places and we had to cover a lot of distance again on this day. So, roughly, let's say 18 to 20 kilometers today, also on the 4th day. So, here we started our walk. This trek really challenges you physically as well as mentally. On all trek days, you will be surrounded by just snow, ice, and these mountains. There is nothing else that you see. The real challenge was of the porters who carried our luggage on this ice, and where the chadar, that is the frozen river, broke. They used to carry this entire luggage on their backs. The different colors of this river, the ice, the snow, the frozen waterfalls, all were such a beautiful wonder for me, and I really enjoyed looking at these landscapes. As we stopped at the campsite, there were a few enthusiastic people who took the joyride on the sledges. So we were almost done with our trek. This was our last night that we would stay in the tents in this cold minus 30 degrees temperature. On the last day, the porters and the members of this team made a bonfire. Of course, the heat was nothing and we could not feel warmth of it at all because of the cold, very very cold temperature. After spending the last night in the tent, on the next day we were all geared up and ready and enthusiastic to go back to Leh after our summit of the Chadar trek done successfully. So here we were a few kilometers now to walk on this slippery ice, and this was our final day when we would reach to the destination from where our bus would pick up and we would go back to Leh. So here we are at the final campsite from where we will be picked up by our bus. After going back to Leh, we enjoyed the hot, warm meals in the restaurant, refreshed ourselves on that day, and then took a flight back to Pune with all the amazing memories of this Chadar trek. This trek is definitely not for the faint-hearted. This trek made me more strong physically, mentally, and emotionally.